Let's talk Ohio State running back, shall we? That's Mick Walker on the other side of your screen. I'm just Spencer Holbrook. Thanks for being here. We're going to talk Ohio State running backs. Friday, we'll talk official visit weekend. The first official visit weekend of the summer is here for Ohio State, and we will talk about it on Friday. We've got full coverage over at lettermenrow.com of that official visit weekend. Mick is all over it. AG Alex Gleitman is also all over it. Chad Simmons, Steve Wilfong, the whole crew over there on three. But today, Mick, we're going to talk about the current Ohio State running backs room. It features James Peoples, CJ Donaldson. It features three freshmen in Turbo Rogers, Bo Jackson, and Isaiah West. And then it features a second-year back who went into the transfer portal, then returned all in one offseason, Sam Williams-Dixon. It's a six-man running back room that has a lot of potential, but a lot of question marks. Let's talk about it. Mick, what's your first impression right now heading into the summer about these Ohio State running backs?
That I think James Peoples is going to be a really good player, and I think the Ohio State coaching staff sees it as well. There's not a lot of guys that aren't previous starters that kind of get held out of the spring game or kind of get limited a little bit in the spring game. But James Peoples was definitely not like, let's run him 20 times in the spring game and kind of see what it looks like. They definitely limited his carries a good bit just kind of because it felt like they know what they were going to get from him. So just knowing that, knowing what we've heard about him, knowing what people were saying about him last year, like I think there's going to be some high expectations for James Peoples, and it feels like he's going to meet him this year as a true sophomore running back.
Yeah, he like you said, he didn't have a lot of carries in the spring game. He didn't do a lot in the spring as far as contact goes. I think they were pretty deliberate about what they wanted to do with him, pretty intentional in how they used him, just around spring practice. CJ Donaldson, another guy who wasn't really used a lot in the spring. He was used a little bit more in the spring game. I thought he had a really good burst in the spring game for somebody who used to play at 245 pounds. He's trimmed some weight. We can kind of separate those two, and maybe Peoples a little bit more than Donaldson, just because I think Ohio State still wants to see Donaldson play at an Ohio State level when they already believe that Peoples can do that. But we can kind of separate those two into their own bucket because Donaldson is a proven veteran. We know you kind of know what you get with him from his time at West Virginia. And then Peoples is just what Ohio State expects him to be, is just a superstar. So those are the two like lead backs. Are we safe in saying that? Can we just put that out there on Main Street and kind of run with that for right now?
Yeah, and I think CJ Donaldson, like you said, proved that in the spring game. He kind of set the tone when the first couple of offensive drives were sputtering. Him, Julian Sand kind of came in, drove down the field, and then from there the offense kind of ran up and down the field a little bit there in that second quarter and even into the third quarter. Really started by CJ Donaldson, who got into the end zone on that first touchdown, I believe, and like I said, set the tone. I think that's what he's going to be able to ask to do. Be kind of the bigger back, the Thunder to James Peoples Lightning. So I think those two are the top two up at the top, even though Carlos Locke and other people have said, no, we don't have anything set yet.
Yeah, they're not going to name a starter, but when Ryan Day comes out after the spring, 2 weeks after they've watched all the film of the spring and says, James has a chance to be a special player for us. Guys, like, come on, we're not stupid. We know how this is going. Ohio State really likes what James Peoples brought to the spring. It really likes what James Peoples just brings in general. That doesn't mean that Peoples is going to get 250 carries and be like Quinshon Judkins was for Ole Miss before he transferred to Ohio State. It just means that they have really high expectations for James Peoples, and they think that he's going to be a special player. I don't mean to like dismiss James Peoples because he's going to be the starting running back at Ohio State. You can't dismiss him. But it almost seems like a known thing now where it's like, what else is there to say about him? Ohio State expects him to be RB1 against Texas. I don't know how much we're supposed to say other than, like, here's something I will say about him. I think from the limited action we've seen, you don't want to put this on it, but like the J.K. Dobbins comparison, just because they're both from Texas, they're both one cut back, they're both, kind of similar in stature. Like, there is a little bit of that I do see, but J.K. had 2,000 yards rushing as a junior. Went for like $182 at Indiana in his first game ever as a true freshman. Like, we're not going to heap those expectations on Peoples right now, but I don't think that it's wrong to say like, well, if you had a player comparison for him, you could say that it's JK. I think that's kind of fair. We don't want to put the expectations on him, but everybody wants a player comp, right? You know that. You're in the recruiting business.
Yeah, I think that's a fair comparison. But even like when James Peoples spoke to the media this spring, I think it's fair to say that he understands and sees the J.K. Dobbins comparison, and like many of us do. but there's also a very obvious eagerness to him to like become James Peoples, the Ohio State running back, not just the guy that people think looks like J.K. Dobbins. He wants to be very, very clearly an Ohio State running back known by his own name, not just a comparison. And that was kind of obvious when people were asking him about it or talking to him about it, like in the media availability. He wasn't rude or anything, but I think he's ready to establish James Peoples as a household name amongst Ohio State fans as well.
Yeah, and I talked to him. I think it was at Rose Bowl Media Day, and he kind of had the similar sentiment to say of like, I really am looking forward to this. I've learned so much from Trey and from Quinshon, but I want to be my own running back. And you really like that mindset. Now let's switch gears here a little bit to Donaldson. 245, 240 during his time at West Virginia, gets down to 225 this offseason, maybe even down closer to 220. That makes him a little bit more of a traditional running back, but I don't know how much of that pop he's lost. And I think that was kind of the worry is like, well, if you do shed the weight, which you want him to play around 220 instead of around 240, but if you do that, is he going to lose some of that pop, some of that luster, some of that stuff that made him a good running back at West Virginia? I guess that's just to be seen because we're not going to see a lot of contact from the running back position in training camp. We're going to just kind of wait until, does he run over Anthony Hill during the season opener against Texas? I highly doubt that because Anthony Hill's one of the best linebackers in America. But you know what I'm trying to say here. Like, I think there's reason to be excited for CJ Donaldson, but there's also reason to wonder, like, what kind of player are we actually getting? Because his best asset at West Virginia was the ability to move people who did not want to be moved and just run people over and be a bruiser. Well, now that he's lost 15, 20 pounds, like, is he still a bruiser? So I'm very curious about him heading into this offseason and obviously in the training camp in August. Something that I want to really ask Ryan Day about at some point.
Yeah, I think the most interesting thing, other than just like what will he look like when the ball gets put down on the 25-yard line, whatever it is, on August 30th against the Texas Longhorns in the horseshoe, whatever time it is. We don't have to get into that today. But I think the interesting thing was watching him this spring with James Peoples, well, like you said, with Bo Jackson, like some of the guys in this running back room, CJ Donaldson very clearly was just like a natural fit in there. Like some of these transfers, like it takes some time, like they'll be off to the side and they'll kind of be coming along. But like CJ Donaldson was in the middle of that group from like the first time that we got in there for that spring practice. I think it helps that he's a South Florida guy. Obviously, you have Brandon Ennis and like Jeremiah Smith. Like these guys that were good South Florida high school football players are just known amongst all of each other because like the South Florida football scene is like you're known since you were like a peewee football player and you just kind of get build up. So like Jeremiah Smith and Brandon Ennis have known CJ Donaldson for years, like and followed him. Like so when he's doing like they're doing videos after practice and like you could see like Jeremiah and Brandon Ennis like very clearly brought some personality around like CJ Donaldson just because they know him, they feel like they know him. So like just seeing how he fit on the team, it kind of gives you a little bit more confidence, I think, in my head going into the season that he's going to be able to like kind of click naturally on the field as well. Because I like Brandon Ennis and Jeremiah Smith aren't in the business of giving guys attention or like kind of talking to them unless they know that they're going to be able to help them and be brothers on the field with them. Like the guys that are just not going to be able to contribute, like they're on with a different group. But Jeremiah Smith, Brandon Ennis, all these guys that are kind of leaders of the team, we're bringing CJ Donaldson and bringing him along.
And then there's the question that I got asked actually on LettermenRow.com. So I went ahead and answered it over at LettermenRow.com. It's behind the paywall. You can go become a member at LettermenRow.com. $1 for your first 7 days. Read all about that first official visit weekend and read some running back week. And then obviously next week, you're going to get some wide receiver context. We're going to write about Jeremiah Smith next week. He's pretty good. I got asked yesterday on LettermenRow.com in the Letterman Lounge message board, which you also get access to. And you do that $1 for your first 7 days. And then you'll just subscribe because you won't regret it after that. Who is RB3? I don't know. I think I know, but I don't know. But the buzz coming out of spring practice and into May, man, this sun thing is really bothering me, Mick. I've got the sun shining through this window. It's a chore. The question that everybody has coming out of spring was who's going to be running back 3, and I think we have that answer, Mick, but that's an I think. It's not an I know if we're using those kind of terms. Bo Jackson, not the one who ran for 1 billion yards at Auburn and got the hip injury in the NFL. No, the real Bo Jackson here in Columbus, Ohio, the one from Villa Angela St. Joseph up there near Cleveland. Bo Jackson, Ohio State is very excited about him, Mick. Every time you talk to somebody about the team, every time I talk to somebody about the team, and every time Alex Gleitman talks to somebody about the team, hey, who's a freshman who's impressing you? The answers are pretty obvious. Devin Sanchez, Quincy Porter, and then, oh, by the way, Bo Jackson. So I know people whose opinions are very highly valued at Ohio State believe that Bo Jackson can be a superstar. I know that people who have a lot of weight to pull around for skill positions on the offensive side of the ball are very excited about Bo Jackson. Even sources who are a little bit down the food chain have said, like, hey, guess who had a good practice today? Bo Jackson. His name keeps coming up, Mick. That's not by accident. I don't know how many carries there are for him. I think there are more carries for him this year than there were for James Peoples last year when Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson took up not only all the oxygen, but all the carries because they were two elite backs. I think right now, and again, I think Bo Jackson is RB3. I think there is a chance by the middle of the season or late in the season where there is a clear-cut RB1 in James Peoples, and then there is RB2A and RB2B with CJ Donaldson and Bo Jackson. That's how highly I've heard praise about Bo Jackson so far this last 4 or 5 months since he got on campus.
Yeah, it's been very loud. It's been very, from all, like you said, all different kinds of sides, whether it's in the public facing towards the media, like Carlos Laughlin talks him up, other running backs talk him up, and then you talk to sources and they say similar things about Bo Jackson. If nothing else, like Paris Campbell made a very good career at Ohio State doing a lot of these kind of jet sweeps, like in and around plays. Bo Jackson's not going to do that exact same play, but there was 3 or 4 times this spring, and Spencer can attest to this, where he had a touchdown on kind of a sweep or a toss to the right side, broke it each time for about 15, 20 yards. Like, if nothing else, Ohio State's going to find a way, if he continues to ascend like he's been talked about previously, like to get him 5 or 6 carries a game, just outside tosses, outside runs, to get him in space. And if he can just get his foot in the ground and take off down the field, he's going to separate for some guys. And like you said, if that's what he can bring, if CJ Donaldson can bring some goal line, some short yardage packages, and then you have James Peoples that can kind of just be the all-around back, you have 3 guys that can play a role. And then we're not even getting into, and we'll get into in the next segment, Anthony Rogers, who can do a different kind of role. Like, there's different ways to piece this running back room together and kind of get as much as you can out of it, unlike last year where you had 2 second-round picks, guys that could have been potentially first-round picks. You kind of got to put this one together a little bit. Brian Hartline, Carlos Laughlin, Ryan Day, Tyler Bowen, all these guys kind of work together to get the best out of this running back room because there's a lot of talent there, including Bo Jackson. It's just going to take a little bit of planning.
Yeah, I'm excited for it with Bo. I liked what we saw in the spring game. I really liked what we saw on Student Appreciation Day back in April. There's a lot to like there. It's just, and I think we saw this with Travion Henderson a little bit when he was a true freshman. It's you can be really good, but 26 carries for 100, and I don't think Bo will ever get this unless there's injuries. But Travion had 26 carries for 150 yards and a touchdown against Penn State his freshman year, and after that, I thought he did look like he hit a bit of a freshman wall because the rigors of playing a Big Ten schedule as a true freshman running back it's just different. On the road at Wisconsin and Illinois in back-to-back weeks, there's a lot of training table that you don't know how to do right now because you're a true freshman. You've got to watch veterans, and James Peoples hasn't even really done it either, to be honest. You've got a game against Penn State, and then, oh, by the way, your next couple games are the ones that Bo Jackson might have more playing time in because it's against Purdue and UCLA and Rutgers before you get to the Michigan game. It's very demanding. And so I don't know how a true freshman reacts to that, but I know that Bo Jackson has impressed enough people where they think that as long as he takes care of business in season, he's going to be really good as a freshman. And I think he's got a chance to be even better down the line as a contributor for this running back room and potentially a superstar in this running back room. And I think the excitement comes in 2026 for this running back room when you could have a 2-headed beast of James Peoples and Bo Jackson together with some complementary pieces around them, and then the potential for a 5-star running back from the 2025-26 class coming in and being a true freshman to learn behind those 2 guys. And I think that's kind of the future of this room, and maybe I'll even write about that on Thursday at lettermenrow.com. Mick, let's get to these other guys. There's Sam Williams-Dixon, there's Turbo Rogers, and there's Isaiah West. Isaiah West out for a lot of the spring with an injury. Not sure about his timeline as far as will he be ready to go and gearing up for training camp kind of sets him back a little bit, but I think he was always going to be kind of a developmental guy in his first year with the injury that he sustained as a high schooler. You got Sam Williams-Dixon, who, I think has a lot of talent, but there's part of him that kind of needs to put it all together and get everything else correct before he's ready to contribute as an Ohio State running back. And then there's Turbo Rogers, who is the only one of these guys who wasn't on campus as a true freshman in his spring. And so, I always think it is just insanely difficult to get on the field as a true freshman, let alone a true freshman who did not have spring practice. Brian Hartline talks about this with Mylan Graham a lot. He was just behind by 6 months. Like there's nothing he can do about it because he couldn't enroll early, but he was behind by 6 months. That puts him behind everything, and he's got to make all of that up. I think Turbo is going to have a little bit of the same thing, but if he's good enough and he immediately comes in and makes an impact, then maybe he lands a role as like a change of pace speedster. Maybe he lands a role in a return game, even though it's hard to trust a freshman in the return game. I think there's a chance because of his unique skill set, but I do think that it's going to be really difficult for him to find the field. He's going to have to be almost perfect in training camp for him to find the field, and that's kind of where the running back room kind of ends, I guess.
Yeah, Sam Williams-Dixon, we'll start with the most senior guy. Like, I saw Sam in high school. I always thought he was a talented guy. When you have James Peoples, when you have Bo Jackson, when you have CJ Donaldson above you, you're going to have to work your tail off in the fall to really find a role to contribute. I think Sam kind of saw that in the spring, in the winter. Probably why he looked into the portal a little bit, couldn't find anything. Ohio State brought him back, and now he's going to be here for another season. I hope he finds a role somewhere, at least on special teams, because I think he's a good athlete and can contribute to Ohio State's success on the field. Like you said, with Turbo Rogers, I've told you multiple times, I've written it on the Lettermen Lounge message board and in stories. I would experiment with him being the returner for both punt and kick return as a freshman. A lot of these freshmen, you come in, you're already he's not coming here just for the love of the game. He's being taken care of to come to Ohio State. They work very hard to get him, and if you're not playing these freshmen decently early on, they're going to start looking elsewhere to go other places to have a bigger role. I think that's a good way to work Turbo Rogers in. Not saying that he's already looking anywhere or any issues like that, but I think that's a good way to work him in to make sure he has a role going forward with the team. And then Isaiah West, I saw him this past season against St. Edward. They ended up losing. St. Joe's Prep did, but he looked very good. He had a good season until he got hurt down the stretch. They still won a state championship without him, and I think he's going to be a good player for Ohio State. Like you said, it's just going to take probably a year or two, maybe before he's on the field. But he's got some talent to really play, kind of do it all: pass catch, run out out of the backfield as a receiver, pass protection, run the ball. He can do a little bit of everything. I think that's what Carlos Loughlin liked about him.
Well, I mean, look at real quick before we get out of here. Look at Isaiah West, and then look at guys that Carlos Loughlin's had success with in the past: Noah Whittington and Bucky Irving, and people along the guys along those lines. Even a Jordan James, who I didn't think was the biggest running back, but was really good at Oregon, and then was good again this year with Oregon, even though Loughlin wasn't there anymore. Loughlin can take a guy that looks like Isaiah West, who's not the biggest, most intimidating running back, and make him pretty good. He has had success with those style of backs before, not just a Turbo who's maybe even a size smaller than that, but an Isaiah West who's kind of a tweener, I think, between the speedy tiny guy and the big bulky back like a CJ Donaldson or a Bo Jackson. He's kind of that tweener. That's where Carlos Loughlin kind of cooks, is with these kind of guys. So maybe that works out to Isaiah's advantage. But for now, it's going to be, I think we can wrap it up here. It's going to be the James Peoples show. It's going to be CJ Donaldson. And I think RB3 very clearly right now has a front runner for that spot, but it's not set in stone. Bo Jackson as the guy who could mop up some of those carries as RB3. Mick, I think we're ready to get out of here. Good little breakdown of the running back room. We will have full coverage of the first official visit weekend for Ohio State at lettermenrow.com. Easy for me to say. That includes 5-star running back Savion Hyder, who's going to be on campus this weekend for his first official visit. It is going to be a huge weekend in Columbus with defensive linemen, with running backs, with a position, with other, with offensive linemen. There's a 5-star offensive lineman coming in. We're going to start with running back tomorrow on Friday for running back week, just because we got to stay on brand here for the week and talk Hyder. But we are also going to talk about that full official visit weekend at lettermenrow.com and on the Lettermen Row YouTube channel on Friday. It's going to be a really fun weekend to track the Buckeyes, Mick.
Yes, it will be. We got a ton of stuff coming. Spencer's got an article coming. I know AG's got some articles coming on official visit weekend. I'll have plenty. We'll have everything from leading up to it through the weekend. We'll have stuff on Saturday, on Sunday. We'll have our visit recap stories like we have every year, and then all in the next week. And a week from today, around this time, Spencer and I will be arriving at the Woody Hayes Athletic Center for our first summer camp at Ohio State on June 5th. First one, big one. A lot of these 25, 26 guys, 27 guys that are priorities coming in first day one, and then it just gets rolling. We reported this morning on Lettermen Row, $1 for your first 7 days. Go read it. It's on the front page. Number one linebacker in the 2027 class will be here the following Thursday on June 12th. It is not slowing down once we get into June, folks. So, like Spencer said, $1 for your first 7 days. Get in here for all the official visit coverage. Stick around. We'll have you covered this whole summer with everything you can possibly want, need, or have to know about Ohio State recruiting. I feel comfortable with that. Alex Lightman will be there. Steve Wilfon will be there. Chad Simmons will be there. Again, we don't know the full details of this Rivals on 3 merger that is coming in July, but more resources will be here. More insiders will be here throughout the summer. You guys won't want to miss a bit of it because On 3 will have you guys covered. Lettermen Row will have you guys covered. And Spencer and I will have you guys covered here on this podcast. Try and make sure we have a weekly thing with you guys to make sure we're catching up, looking back on, and previewing any recruiting details coming.
Yeah, we might have to do 2 recruiting shows if it gets a little bulky here. Maybe one on Monday to recap everything, one on Thursday to preview everything. We'll see. We'll see how the schedule works out in June. We'll get it nailed down pretty well. But I'm looking forward to all of those camps in June. I'm looking forward to the recruiting weekend. We've also got a lot of other coverage, like running back week, we're recruiting, and then I'm over at the Memorial all week this week, getting ready to head over there right now when we finish this video. Talked to Justin Thomas about Ryan Day, talked to Ryan Day about Ryan Day. Nick Saban was there yesterday, wrote about that. We'll probably have a little bit, I talked to Max Homa yesterday. If there's something for everybody over at LettermenRow.com, that's where Mick Walker's content resides. That's where me, Spencer Holbrook, that's where I'm at. And Alex Gleitman over there in New Jersey, but always on LettermenRow.com. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Like the video below. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Come over to LettermenRow.com. Come hang out with us. We're a good time. We're a good hang. We'll see you guys over at LettermenRow.com. For Mick, I'm Spencer. Thanks for watching.